and the cat only has a second to react, it's going to react quick and it's going to attack it hard with force. It's going to be fierce. And a bass is the same way. You know, these fish have survived for thousands of years, and they're way smarter than we give them credit for, I think. So, you know, the sight fishing is what got me into it, and that transfers into all kinds of fishing. It transfers into flipping, transfers into drop shot, transfers to you name it. So we're going to get into some of that. So with flipping, I like to flip a 1 ounce bait. I use a 7.6 Abu Garcia Fantasista X heavy action. I pair it with a 6.6 to 1 gear ratio. I prefer the slower gear ratio because that gives me cranking power. You know, some guys like to use a high speed reel. I don't like it because you don't have that power to get into them. But I typically flip a 1 ounce all the time, no matter where I'm at in the nation. And the reason for that is because I can control the rate of descent with my thumb on the spool. If I want it to race to the bottom, I let my thumb off the spool and it races to the bottom. And if it's colder temperatures, like, you know, maybe it's winter time and the water's down in the 50s, I can thumb it and let it sink really slowly so the fish have a chance to get it. And, you know, I learned that when I was flipping hyacinths in Florida, in the winter time, you'll notice that the fish are up against the hyacinths and they have their back really tight to it because the sun is warming them. So they're not down in the water column, they're not in the mid part of the water column, they're right up against the hyacinths. So when you punch through, you really thumb it slow so they have a chance to get it, because they usually don't eat it off the bottom. And as you progress and the temperatures start to warm, the fish will start to eat it off the bottom, and you can get a little bit faster and a little bit quicker and start flipping faster and cover more water that way. And you know, when you're flipping and you're flipping Florida, you're flipping down south, or you're flipping grass, when you punch through, you want your rod flat. You want it as flat as can be. You don't want your tip up, because what happens is you'll reel down and set the hook and you'll set it too hard. And what that does is if you set the hook too hard, it creates a hole in the fish's mouth. And when you're trying to get them in, they come off. You know, when you got big fish, when you're in the south, or you're in Texas, or you're somewhere, when you have a hole in the fish's mouth, they have a chance to come off. So you want your rod flat, because you don't want a slack line hook set ever. You want your line tight, you want your rod flat, so when they eat it, you can just let the rod load up and pull on them, and the hook will do the work. I like to use a Palomar knot, because that lets the gap of the hook do the work. You know, I don't like to do any extra fancy stuff, you know, that you just let the gap of the hook do the work and pull and reel them in, and I've noticed my catch rate has gone way up. Now, when I'm flipping heavy grass, my weight of choice is a 1 ounce. And the reason why I like a 1 ounce was I was fishing a BFL super tournament in September of 2014, and I had a co-angler who said he liked to use a 2 ounce weight. And he was punching way back in the hyacinths, way back in the thick stuff, and he probably had 40 bites. I might have had 20 bites that day. He had double the amount of bites that I had, and he lost every single fish. And at the end of the day, we talked about it, and the conclusion we came to was the weight was so big that when he would set the hook, it would open the fish's mouth so much that the hook actually couldn't catch, it couldn't hook the fish. It was too big of a weight. So I prefer that 1 ounce weight, where it allows the gap of the hook to still, penetrate the fish's mouth so you can hook them and reel them in. And if the 1 ounce doesn't get through it, I don't flip it. Your catch ratio goes way down beyond that. So